My name is Nina Hartstone. I am a supervising sound editor who specialises in dialogue and ADR. I've recently worked on Bohemian Rhapsody. I've also worked on Gravity, Everest, The Hours, Gosford Park, quite a lot of films. I did my schooling, my O levels and A levels up until 18, and then I went to university and studied a subject called Visual and Performed Arts, which was basically film studies and art history. After I'd done my degree, which was all very, it was very much a theoretical degree. It was writing essays. There was no practical side to the film studies. I realised I had to get a job, so I managed to get a job at Pinewood Studios. There were some guys there in the cutting rooms, and they wanted someone to come and make the tea, so I got a job as a trainee and worked my way up from there. I'm a dialogue and ADR editor. I've also been, I'm a supervising dialogue ADR editor, so I take the sound that has been recorded on set, which is usually dialogue, and I try and make that sound better, and then I identify any sounds or any dialogue that needs to be re-recorded by the actors in ADR, so then we go and re-record it. But I also oversee the whole process of dialogue and ADR on the film, also loop group crowd recordings, that whole side of it as well. I'm in contact with the director a lot in my work, because particularly in ADR sessions, so we liaise back and forth, we go through the film. They might have lines that they want to re-record that don't necessarily need to be re-recorded because of a technical reason. So, and then in the ADR sessions, when we're re-recording with the actor, the director is always there liaising with me, and we're working on performance and the technical side of it as well. I'm always there, so from when I start on the movie, I'm there once we've got a cut to work on. I'm there from the beginning all the way through all the editorial process and any ADR re-recording process, through the dialogue pre-mix and through the final mix, and usually as well into the foreign versions. So I stay for the M&E mix so that I can oversee how the foreign version is going to sound. Is this the real life? In a dialogue perspective, you generally end up doing it in the same way anyway, and however it's going to be mixed. You really want your work to sound as good as it's going to sound in any format, so from the stereo all the way up to the Atmos format. Particularly for dialogue, there's less that I have to do in terms of Atmos or worrying about surrounds, because on most films, although it didn't apply in Gravity, in most films the dialogue is in the centre, maybe a tiny bit of panning, but it's generally, you know, right at the front, so it doesn't affect my work so much. With the crowd, I am aware of trying to get more space around it. So with recording the crowd, we quite often record that across a lot of mics with different distances, with a view to being able to place things in different areas in the room. If the dialogue is panned, it's generally done in the mix stage. Those kind of decisions are better made in the big room rather than sat in front of a Pro Tools, where it's you know, certainly particularly for dialogue, where I think you need to judge how good it's going to sound when you pan it, and if it's going to take you out of the movie or if it's going to help bring you more into it. So we always make those decisions in the mix stage. I've worked on a few films that have been finished in Dolby Atmos. I think it's a great step, Dolby Atmos, you know, moving up from 5.1 to 7.1 to Dolby Atmos, and in particular certain films it can really give you that immersive experience. We used it carefully but well on Bohemian Rhapsody. I feel that Paul Massey, our mixer, did an excellent job immersing you into the concert footage, and obviously on Gravity it was used a lot. That was one of the very early films in Atmos, and it was almost as if that film was made for Atmos, to be honest. It really did give you that feeling of just being in space, having everything all around you. I've had quite a few tough jobs, I have to admit. Bohemian Rhapsody had quite a few challenges. One of the main challenges for me, because I was dealing with the vocals as well as all the dialogue and ADR, was getting making it believable that Rami could sing with Freddie's voice, that was quite a challenging thing to do. Gravity was obviously very challenging as well.
Astronaut is off structure. Dr. Stone is off structure. Dr. Stone, detach. You must detach. If you don't detach, that arm's going to carry you too far.
Just the nature of that film, that Sandra Bullock is breathing from the beginning to the end. So there was, I had to make sure that her breath track always worked and was a continuous piece, really, from the beginning of the movie right the way up to the end of the movie, and that the rhythms and the patterns of her breaths were always, all those transitions worked, really. There was never a point where you could go, okay, we've cut away from her, so we could start the breath again. It had to be a very long, seamless piece of work.
Houston, I've lost visual, Dr. Stone.
During the mix, we do screen the film quite a few times, and then we take it to other places so that we can see how it sounds in other venues as well. Make sure that the mix that we've created in our dub stage translates appropriately. But yeah, I mean, I love going to watch movies, and I think it's important to have that frame of reference of seeing lots of the big films that are coming out, hearing other people's sound work. It's an integral part of my job, really. I very often go up to the projection booth and find out what level they're playing it at. They generally play it too low. I mean, we mix it to be played at 7, and I think a lot of cinemas will play it at anything from 3 up, 3, 4, 5. They don't generally go to 7, but we've mixed it to play at 7, and I think it should be played at the level it's mixed at. Particularly once you've got an entire audience in there and they're eating popcorn and all those kind of things, I think you lose punch and detail if you're playing it too low. We have to sort of compensate for that in a way, because we know that most places won't play it as we intend it to be played. So we do have to ensure that everything, we can also listen to it lower and make sure that everything still works. It's quieter, but we need to make sure that every line of dialogue can still be heard, and that the mix itself works and doesn't lose too much by being dipped in volume. Obviously, I'd always just prefer it to be played at the level it's supposed to be played at. I think obviously Bohemian Rhapsody it has to be top of my list at the moment. Basically, it was such a fun film to work on, such an amazing opportunity to work with the band, and you know, listening to Queen music every day, what's not to love? That was a real highlight. You know, obviously recent highlight. It did well in the awards as well, which was a bonus, really, the icing on the cake. But actually working on the film was incredible, and we had such a great crew. We all got on really well, so that is definitely my career highlight.